shelf life of about 15 minutes. In fact, I want to tell you this story. This happened last year. Mary and I were empty nesters. All our children are gone. We have grandchildren and all that, except we still have a dog. And so we were going to the store, and we were coming out of the store, and this one fellow was coming in, and he stopped, and he said, "Oh, I know who you are." And I was waiting for him to kind of catch up. You know, they recognize my face, but they can't quite remember who I was. So all of a sudden, he blurted out and says, "I know you. Says, "You're a salesman." He said, "I wouldn't touch him with a 10-foot pole." I want to talk to you just a little bit tonight, this afternoon, and bring Jerry up in just a moment, on the importance of this election. You know, you've heard politicians, by the way, I'm one that's gone straight. You know, I'm not running, so I can shoot straight with you. I've always tried to shoot straight with folks. But you've heard this time and time again, this is the most important election that you will face in your lifetime. Well, I will tell you this. I believe this is going to be the most important election. This week, I have a television in my office, and I love business. I was raised in a business environment. My family was in business. I learned how to count by counting the change that Daddy brought home from the store every day. And I keep the television on, and it has the ticker tape up there. It's on CNBC, the business channel. And Tuesday was the first time in my life, and I've been through every major depression or recession we've had really since the early 70s. Tuesday was the first day that I paused, and I was truly fearful of what was going on in the country. In fact, by the end of the week, I said we had three parties in this nation: the Democrats, the Republicans, and Goldman Sachs. And because they're the only one that's left standing with any type of strength. And I wondered to myself, how in the world did we ever get into this mess? And this is not a Republican or Democratic issue. There's senators on both sides of this. How did we go from 7 years ago, of having a budget deficit of about a budget surplus of about $500 million a year, to now this new act? I just read it yesterday on the website. This new act is going to authorize a new national debt limit of $11.5 trillion. We've gone from $3 trillion in the deficit and paying down on it in the last couple of years, 1998 and 99, and there was a $3 trillion debt to $11.5 trillion. It's a great challenge to our stability as a nation, and the ability that we have for my children, my grandchildren, to be able to find a place, to have a job, and to have the hope that they will do as well as I did. And the same thing is occurring in the state of Georgia. In fact, if you put the percentages out, it's even worse. There is no excuse to have $2.5 billion deficit in this state. And let me tell you why. The governor says Georgia has a great budgetary system. The governor sets how much the General Assembly can spend. He sets the revenue estimate, and the General Assembly is not obliged to spend that, but they cannot go over it. And the only reason that we have a deficit in this state where we closed a veterans home and turned veterans out on the street who are disabled and have no other place to live in Milledgeville, Georgia, or that we say that our children now have to go to school in places that have 40 children, is because we have not had the leadership in the General Assembly and in the governor's office, but those might be sour grapes, but in the General Assembly over these last few years. You cannot allow this state to continue like that. We have a $2.5 billion deficit. Oops. We have a highway department that can't balance their checkbook. Now, I want to tell you, they said they're $500 million out. So we kind of lost $500 million. How can you have a state that will deliver on us and deliver for us and relieve us of some of the traffic problems that we face, and some of the education problems, water quality problems, unless you have the leaders in the General Assembly that will speak up and rather than lining their own pockets, make sure that they take care of the people they represent. I want to say this last thing, I'm going to hush and bring Jerry up. I gave a speech recently when I said this. There's a stench in the national capital, and I apply this to Democrats and Republicans. I was elected to the General Assembly in a very Republican district for 22 years. And I know about how to reach across the aisle. So all of my condemnation is not there, just to one party. But I will tell you there is a stench in the national capital and in the state capital, where we have lobbyists who are controlling the flow of legislation. And that's happening in Washington, and it's happening in Atlanta. And I recently said, listen, if we're going to have lobbyists controlling everything, let's at least have full disclosure. Let's make them wear a patch, these legislators, on their coat, just like they do on NASCAR, and say, sponsored by the predatory lenders, or sponsored by the big banks, or sponsored by the pharmaceutical companies. Let's at least have full disclosure. When I was governor, we put a program in you get a little credit on your tax bill for a home that you live in. It says tax relief provided by the governor and the General Assembly. I've gotten it up to $250 to $350 average throughout the state. I was trying to get it up to between $500 and $700. It costs about $500 million a year to do that. This legislature and this leadership says, well, we've got this hole, so we can't give money back to the homeowners who are suffering in these difficult times. But we have money to buy and pay $600,000 a year for a new hangar for the state's aircraft, so our bureaucrats and our elected officials can ride around in comfort. I'm going to be quite frank with you. I've had enough. And I believe that Jerry Brillant is the kind of fellow that will bring change to the General Assembly. He will hit the ground running, and he'll be able to stand up for the things we believe in rather than those that wear those alligator shoes out in the hall and carry those eelskin briefcases. And I want to tell you, you got to be a brave man to fly a pink airplane around. Even though it's for a great cause. I met Felicia and Sarah and Sophie and Alexander today. It's a great family. He's a great guy, and we need him at the state capitol in Atlanta. Welcome to our new state senator, the next state senator, Jerry Brillant.